going to get knocked down, eliminated, humiliated. MJ went through that. LeBron went through that. All those things is part of being great.
You cannot keep me down.
The Greek Freak is a Greek NBA champion.
I could go to a super team, but this is the hard way to do it, and we did it. We did it.
Oh, we love that. Welcome to Monday morning. What better way to start First Take on a Monday than with a fresh face? Christine Williamson here alongside Dominique Foxworth. Nick, this is the first time we got to work together.
I know. I've been looking forward to this moment since ESPYs. We hung out a little bit at ESPYs, and now we get to have some fun at Perk's expense.
Nick got me pizza, so I know I like him. Perk, hold it down in Houston. What's good, Perk? We work together all the time. What's happening, Perk? You good?
What's happening? What's going on?
I mean, you never got me pizza, but I still like you. We got a lot to get to. Free agency begins tonight, but we start with guys that are not free agents. Giannis Antetokounmpo is in his hometown of Athens, Greece, and he has taken the Larry O'Brien Trophy with him to celebrate and make his rounds. Now, Giannis was asked while there how he would feel if he was now considered the face of the NBA, and this is what he had to say. I don't care about being the face of the NBA. KD or Harden can be. I want to be with my kids and my family. I want to win and enjoy the game. I want to be Giannis, the hard worker. Now, Perk, you tweeted a couple of days ago and you asked a very casual question. If both KD and Giannis retired right now, whose legacy would you argue is greater? So we've got to start there. And we're going to start with Unique because Perk has a take, but you first.
No
Who
problem.
has the greatest legacy so far? Is it KD or is it Giannis?
First of all, Perk, this masterful production.
Hold on, time out. Christine, you said a very casual question.
I mean, it was a loaded question. It's a loaded question. I mean, I'm being a little sarcastic.
I was about to appreciate the question because that is an incredible question. You didn't answer how you felt about it, but the question itself is an outstanding question. Because when I first thought about it, I was like, this is a stupid question. Obviously, it's KD. And then I gave it some thought, and I was like, all right, I see the argument for Giannis, but then I gave it some more thought, and I came back to my original thought. It's obviously KD. Like anyone who would say it's Giannis, I understand an argument for Giannis, but you're being a prisoner of the moment. Like KD has been, if not the best or the most talented, been the second best player in the league for much of his career after LeBron. So I think that his legacy is going to be great. And we normally measure legacies by championships, right? That's what we do. All the time, we count the rings. KD got more. He got 2 championships and 2 MVPs. He's got 4 scoring titles. The only people with more scoring titles than him are a guy named Michael and a guy named Wilt. And if those are the only people who have scored more than you or had 1 more scoring titles than you, you're in a great position. He's been dominant. And it's not only that he's won more championships and that he's won more championship MVPs. It's also that he's had big moments after moments in these playoffs just this past season. And also, we can go back to when y'all was teammates back in 11 and 12. He was cooking. Like, he just had so many memorable moments. We don't have to go back that far. We can just go back to how he was single-handedly pretty much going at the Bucks. And if it weren't for a quarter of an inch, he might be winning a championship right now. And I'm pretty sure your tune would be a lot different. So I respect Giannis. He's done a lot. He's grown a great deal since he's been in the league, and he's become one of the preeminent stars. But let's not shortchange KD just because of this prisoner of the moment type recency bias that we're falling into right now.
Well, first of all, Nick, let me say this. Let me start off. Before I address you, let me say this. Kevin Durant, in my eyes, is the best scorer to ever touch the damn basketball. Let me get that out the way. But when the question was asked, that I asked and put on my social media, it was about legacy. It wasn't about who was the better basketball player. I believe KD is the better basketball player, but when you talk about a legacy, you talk about the story of that individual. So it's almost like writing a book on this individual, and you're going in chapters about their career. When you look at Giannis and what he just accomplished, Forget that he won MVP and Defensive Player of the Year last year, along with winning the NBA championship and winning the Finals MVP, joining the company of Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon, the only 3 players to ever do it. Forget the fact that he was drafted number 15, I believe it was, to the Milwaukee Bucks, who he came in a year later that a franchise was built around Jabari Parker, who was the number 2 pick for the Milwaukee Bucks a year before that. Forget that Giannis wasn't playing his first couple years that many minutes. He was coming off the bench. Forget that no one in the world knew that Giannis would be this great of a player. Forget all that. We're talking about the story, right? Giannis, just think, 2 years ago against the Toronto Raptors, he was down 0-2 in the series. He lost that series. He had an opportunity to leave and go join somewhere else to try to win the championship. No, he stuck through it. He worked hard. He delivered a championship right to the Milwaukee Bucks this season. They haven't done that in 50 years. Hold on, Dominique. They haven't done it in 50 years since Kareem and Oscar Robertson was there. Okay? This is what I'm about to, this is what I'm about to dive into. When you look at legacies and you look at stories, I'm going to give you a couple examples of a few. You look at Kobe Bryant, right? You look at the 5 championships, right, that he won with the Los Angeles Lakers. He only won 1 MVP, 1 regular season MVP. In that run with Shaq, when they three-peated, he didn't win a finals MVP. You know when Kobe Bryant, when his legacy took off, is when Shaq left and he was able to win 2 without Shaq. He went through some rough patches with the Los Angeles Lakers, and he won 2 along with 2 finals MVPs. He stayed with the organization. He battled. He went through the trenches. Look, you go to LeBron James. He left Cleveland. Went down to South Beach, won 2 championships. Could have went anywhere. Could have stayed down there and probably won 3 more. But in his mind, he was writing his book. And he knew a chapter was still missing. A chapter was still open. He wanted to go back to Cleveland. Why? Because LeBron James strived for greatness. 1, he wanted to deliver a championship for the city of Cleveland and the state of Ohio where he's from. But 2, in the back of his mind, he knew he had unfinished business and that would be held against him far as his legacy. Now, I'm not knocking KD 2 championships, but we will always have an asterisk. People will always talk about KD blowing the 3-1 lead in Oklahoma and going join the Golden State Warriors, who beat them, a 73-9 team. There will always be a chapter in this book. So when I talk about legacies, I'm not talking about the better basketball player.
Right.
I'm talking about their story, their journey to get where they at.
I think you did a great job defining legacy, because you're right about who's the better basketball player. We all understand that KD is a better basketball player. And you said he's the greatest scorer that's ever touched the ball. That's a pretty damn good legacy to start with, even without the championships that he's won, or the scoring titles, or the finals MVPs, or the league MVP. Like, even without all the all NBA teams, even without all that, just being the greatest scorer to ever touch the ball is a hell of a place to start for a man's legacy. But this is where you lose me. You ascribe so much value to staying in the city that drafted you. And I know a lot of people do. They're wrong. And you're wrong. Like, just because you stayed and won in Milwaukee does not make your championship any more valuable to me. And I understand, you're right. The legacy is about the story that we tell. And Giannis has an outstanding story. It's incredibly impressive. I love it. He's going to have a great legacy. He may go on to win more and more championships. And the story of him coming from Greece all the way to America, a Nigerian born individual, to do all of that is a great, great story. From selling CDs on the sidewalk to winning in the finals and blocking key shots. That is a beautiful story. But I don't have any problem with teams having to build to win a championship. Like, that's what we're talking about, is how it's not like Giannis did this without them bringing in other players. Like, they had to bring in other players for them to build around. Moves had to be made. Right? So KD, he made the moves. Nothing's wrong with that. You brought up Shaq earlier. I'm not going to diminish Shaq because he didn't win in Orlando. I don't care about that. Shaq was great. Kevin Garnett, not just diminishing him because he couldn't win in Minnesota. he's still pretty great. And I'm not diminishing LeBron because he had to go to 3 different places to win a championship. Like that to me is your only argument against KD is that he had to leave, right?
No. But that's a huge argument. And I'm not downplaying or diminishing no one's championship because winning a championship is hard as hell. I'm not downplaying that. All I'm telling you is that it sings, it's a different tune to the song when you stay at a franchise and battle through the trenches of a franchise that you built, that you helped build from the ground up. The Milwaukee Bucks, before Giannis got there, they were irrelevant. They were irrelevant before Giannis took this franchise into his hands. And all I'm saying to you is, Dominique, go ask LeBron James. Whenever you get a chance to ask LeBron James, ask him out of all 4 of his championships, which one meant the most to him? The one that he won in Cleveland. You know why? Because it was unfinished business. He went back to Cleveland with him and the owner, and Dan Gilbert didn't say a word to him. You remember when he left, Dan Gilbert wrote a book about him or whatever it was, called The Man of Benedict Arnold, but he went back because he knew it was part of his legacy. It was part of his legacy. That's why he knew that's what I'm trying to.
I feel you. I agree with so much. I agree with so much of what you were saying. But this is where you lose me. Is that doesn't have any value to me? Like he shouldn't have gone back to Dan Gilbert. I was not excited that he won Dan Gilbert a championship. Like I do not have the same affection for these franchises and organizations that you do. Like I am happy that LeBron did what made him happy, and I can call LeBron if you want. Not that I got his phone number, but if you're saying call him and ask him, I can ask him. I don't care what he says. I don't care if he tells me that the Cleveland championship meant more to him. It don't mean more to me. His legacy to me is not that he went back and won one for Cleveland. He won one for Dan Gilbert. Like that don't make me happy. I don't care about Dan Gilbert. And frankly, I don't think that the fans in Cleveland deserve LeBron to come back in the first place after how many of them acted. So I'm not celebrating that. I'm celebrating the guys who win championships and the guys who have, to me, impeccable resumes, and both of these guys do. Giannis has one too, but my only point, let me finish. Give me 3 more seconds. 3 more seconds. My only point is that Giannis won a championship with a team that was built around him. KD did the same thing. Those teams, as soon as he got there, they became built around him in Golden State. He won 2 of them. So his legacy is good with me because I do not value staying at home the same way you do. Like these franchises, they don't care nothing about these players. Dominique, that don't give you no credit to me.
Dominique, listen. I know going into the studio, we have to show our vaccination card or we have to get COVID tested. But I wonder if they giving drug tests out because you are tripping right now. You're talking about the Golden State Warriors. You're talking about the Golden State Warriors built their team around Kevin Durant. The Golden State Warriors had already won. They won 7. They was a 73-9 team before Kevin Durant. How did they build the team around?
Those teams were not built around KD before he got there. But when he got there, the way that they played in the playoffs, go rewatch either of those finals that they won, the series. Watch what they did. It was about Kevin Durant. It was about getting the ball to Kevin Durant. It was about Kevin Durant's defensive flexibility. That's why they won those championships when he was there, a lot like Giannis. They win the championships because it's about Giannis being a unique offensive player and his ability on defense. The same thing happened in Golden State. I know that we want to pretend like it was, I'll accept that it's always Steph's team as far as the fans are concerned. But as far as schematics on the floor, watching the games, they were unique and they were special.
It is.
Perk, we'll talk more Giannis very soon because we do have to talk about who's the face of the league and that quote that he said that we mentioned earlier. But the Bucks are at the top of the East.
Christ.
The Nets not too far behind. Let's talk about another team in the East. NBA free agency begins tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern, and the Miami Heat are positioning themselves to become front runners to land Kyle Lowry in a sign-and-trade agreement once discussions begin, according to Lowry. Takes his talents to South Beach. Perk, we'll start with you on this one. Will the Heat be a threat in the East?
Yeah, absolutely. You talking about adding Kyle Lowry, a guy who's one of the best floor generals in the game today, the ultimate leader a guy that doesn't rely on his athleticism to get it done, one of the ultimate competitors, and you put him in that Miami Heat culture along with one of the best coaches in the game today in Eric Spoelstra with Jimmy Butler and Bam, and I'm not going to say his last name because I don't feel like he and Christine and Dominique laughed today, but I'm going to give y'all a laugh. Bam out of the bayou, okay?
Nailed
you put
it.
him in there with Bam and that Heat culture, he fits. It's a perfect marriage, okay? Kyle Lowry is a guy that is not going to let up. He's a guy that's going to keep coming. That's what Jimmy Butler is accustomed to. That's what Eric Spoelstra and his Heat culture loves and they embrace. If the Miami Heat could get Kyle Lowry, of course there'll be a threat in the Eastern Conference. Now, would I pick them? Probably not, but there'd definitely be a threat.
I guess you and I can define threats differently because unless something is going to happen to the Nets or something is going to happen to the Bucks, and frankly, I feel like the 76ers are the same place. Like, they don't become a threat like that. They're going to make the playoffs again. They might win a round, maybe, but they're not going to be in the finals, in the conference finals. They're not a real threat adding Kyle Lowry. Like, I understand Spo's a great coach and Duncan Robinson, maybe Tyler Hero will return to what we saw the player he was in the bubble and Bam Adebayo. You're right. He's an outstanding player. But let's look around that conference. They are not a real threat adding Kyle Lowry. And I appreciate what you said about him never having relied on his athleticism. So maybe aging, the fact that he's 35 doesn't matter as much. And maybe he can go down there to Heat culture. He already, frankly, embodies the Heat culture. So I think all of that makes sense. They become a better team. He fits down there. That's all great. But they don't become better than the Bucks. They don't become better than the Nets. So unless we're going to have a catastrophic year like we had this year with injuries or something, they are not coming out of there where people are healthy. And if everybody's healthy and at top strength, they're not getting past either of those two teams.
Dominique, we do realize that this Miami Heat team went to the finals last year, right?
Yeah,
2 years ago.
I remember.
They represented the Eastern Conference. Okay, and so no disrespect to Goran Dragic and no disrespect to Kendrick Nunn, but Kyle Lowry is a serious upgrade from those two players. And one of the most important positions in the NBA is the point guard position. Who's going to be the leader to be the floor general? It's so many times that we have watched Jimmy Butler and Bam have to run the point forward, or Jimmy Butler have to slide to the point where he have to orchestrate the offense instead of worry about getting buckets. That wears him down. Now you add Kyle Lowry, a guy where Eric Spoelstra don't have to call sets every time down. A guy that's going to make sure he put Jimmy Butler in position to be successful, to put the ball in the basket. A guy that's going to get Bam easy, good looks because of the way that he attacks and put pressure on the defense. Again, I'm not picking the Heat to come out the East, but let's not sit up here and disrespect them and say that they're not going to be a threat.
Yeah, I'm not looking to disrespect them, but they're not going to be a threat to come out of the East. So I think we agree on that. You phrasing it differently, but you don't think they're going to actually beat either of those teams. And I appreciate that they went to the finals in the bubble, but I think that season was different. That season was about mental toughness, and that is a very mentally tough team led by Jimmy Butler. They got through that season because of mental toughness. Every other season in the NBA is mostly about talent, and frankly, they don't have the talent. Honestly, like adding Kyle Lowry is a talent upgrade. You're right about Dragic and Kendrick Nunn. They are not the player that Kyle Lowry is, but they still do not compare to the talent that you're going to see in New York with the Nets, or in Brooklyn with the Nets, or in Milwaukee with the Bucks. So unless we're going to go back to a bubble, which the way y'all people is acting, maybe we will end up in a bubble next year, then I'll pick the Heat to go to the finals potentially, because that season will be different. It'll again be about a mentally tough team, which the Heat are. But if that doesn't happen, it's going to be about talent, and they don't have the talent, even if you add Lowry to jump past the Bucks.
Dominique, do you know you have to being mentally tough in any atmosphere, whether it's in the bubble or not, you have to be mentally tough to win a championship.
Agreed.
Giannis had to be mentally. Okay, then that's not even an argument. Don't move the goalpost.
I'm not moving the goalpost.
You have to be mentally tough.
I'm saying that there is a.
Because you talk. Listen.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to tell you. If you look at Giannis and what he did against the Phoenix Suns, being down 0-2 the start of the series and winning 4 straight and dropping a 50-piece to close them out, your mental has to be different. You have to be mentally tough. You have to be mentally tough and locked in and focused to go up to the free throw line and to keep attacking the basket, knowing that they're going to foul you and put you on the free throw line and go 17 from 19 from the free throw line. That's mental toughness.
Agreed. I'm not saying that. So we don't disagree on that. I'm just saying that different things matter at different times. Like, they matter more. In that particular season, that was the only season where I felt like mental toughness was more important than anything else. I'm not saying you don't have to be mentally tough, but in the NBA, what it comes down to oftentimes in the playoffs is who has the most talent. The most talented team normally wins in the NBA playoffs. In football playoffs, oftentimes there's a different ranking of that. And there's a lot of times it's health. And it's a lot of luck because it's a single game playoff. It's a lot more coaching than in basketball. And then also talent matters. So I'm saying that all those things matter, but depending on the circumstances, different things matter more. The Heat went to the finals in that bubble year because mental toughness was at a premium that year. And this is quite possibly one of the most tough teams mentally in the league. I'm saying that this coming season, it's not going to matter nearly as much. It's going to go back to normal and where talent kind of prevails, and that's what's going to happen. They still don't have the talent to get them past it. The mental toughness is going to get them to the playoffs. It may get them to a Game 7 in round 2, but that's not going to be enough to get them past the Nets. Like, it's just not. I don't care how tough their brains are. They're not going to be able to outscore them 3 boys in Brooklyn.
Neek, really quick question.
Okay, and I'm not saying that they're not. Go ahead.
I was going to say, do you think that the Heat need one more piece and then they're actually contenders in the East?
I think that's it, honestly. Like, I think if they add one more piece, I'm not sure if that piece is out there, honestly. Like, this year's free agency class is not one with a big home run hitter in it necessarily, unless Kawhi decides to do something that we'll all be surprised by. Like, I think Kyle Lowry is probably the guy who's the best fit for them out there, but they're going to have to find somebody else, make another move throughout the course of the upcoming season in order to be a real threat to Milwaukee or Brooklyn.
All right, so I'm a fair weather Heat fan, so I'll take Kyle Lowry all day. Still to come on First Take, Kawhi opts out of his deal. All signs point to him re-signing with LA, but should the Clippers even want him back? Plus, Dak will be back in his first test on the field since injury is against Tom Brady. Do the Cowboys have a shot week 1? Jerry Jones says it's a long shot. Seriously, stay tuned. First Take.
Swing you're going to have in basketball. I worked hard to get to this point. Every game, come in with confidence.
My game is running strong. Came to prove I'm wrong. I've been in the trenches and won't be that way for long. It goes like, oh my, hello nasty.
First Take back with you. Clippers forward Kawhi Leonard has declined his $36 million player option to become a free agent. That was confirmed to Woj on Sunday. Leonard is expected to negotiate a new deal to remain with the Clips. He can potentially sign a 4-year, $176.2 million deal, or he could do a 1-and-1 and become a free agent in 2022 when he could sign a 5-year deal worth $235 million. Perk, still here with us. Perk, I'm going to start with you. Kawhi just had surgery on his ACL last month. He has not yet helped the Clips to an NBA Finals series. Should the Clippers even want to sign Kawhi long-term?
Yes. This shouldn't even be a question. They absolutely should. Just think about it. Look at what they done and look at what they gave up to just even when Kawhi got there to even embrace and help Kawhi get to that point of going to the Clippers, trading for Paul George, giving up everything in the world, including draft picks and everything. I mean, their back was against the wall. And when you look at what the Clippers, how they have catered to Kawhi Leonard, and Kawhi Leonard, have delivered when healthy, he has delivered in great fashion. Look, I believe that the Clippers should want Kawhi Leonard back long term. Listen, at the end of the day, it's a ACL tear, and I get it. It's not an injury that we just could overlook and downplay. It is something that's going to have him sidelined for months or possibly the whole entire year. But if you're the Clippers and you look at the way that Paul George has found his confidence, especially throughout this postseason, and the way that he dominated when Kawhi went out, and Kawhi is a guy that's the ultimate professional when it comes down to working on his game, and when he get between those lines, he's going to deliver. When he comes back, He still is going to have 3 or 4 years left of great basketball. So if I'm the Clippers, I would commit to him long term because him and PG is a duo to be a force to be reckoned with for as a dynamic duo in this league.
Yeah, I mean, they already made this decision when they traded for Paul George. Like, you are in on this. You sent your draft picks away. You sent any young, like, potential talent that you could build around away. Like, this decision has been made for them a while ago. So, yes, they should want to stick with Kawhi long term. In this offseason, or excuse me, this playoffs, the postseason that we just passed, we saw Paul George kind of rekindle some of this playoff P stuff that he might have had back when he was with the Pacers that we hadn't seen in a while. So we saw that. We also saw Kawhi be fantastic in that Dallas series. When he was healthy, he would just take over games. So yes, you want to bring him back because that's what you're hoping for. But I don't know that it's as obvious as we all seem to think it is, because Kawhi in the Clippers are in an interesting situation where Kawhi is not always that communicative with that team, and it doesn't work out necessarily. You remember when we were in the playoffs and we were like, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Like, the Clippers didn't even know what they were going to do with him. But the problem with this is, if you want to win a championship, you're going to have to win a championship in LA in order to get any sort of like stake in that city as far as being a competitive team. If you want to win a championship, it's going to be very hard to do with Kawhi. Honestly, the way this team is currently constructed and the way that they are aging, coming off of injuries, it's going to be hard. That window feels like it's closing. But the reason why you stick with Kawhi, because if you want to do it without him, it gets so much harder because there are no Kawhis out there for you to grab. Like, no one is just floating around. These players are impossible to find and get. You are in LA, a place that players might want to come. That you could use that to recruit, but you have to find these players, and you're not going to find them in the draft time and time again. That doesn't seem to pan out. Like, you can get guys at the top of the draft, maybe. It's so rare that you find these guys in the draft. Maybe you can trade for a guy, but I don't see that opportunity there. So it's kind of like you already made this decision. When you traded everybody to get Paul George there, you decided that this was your window. The next, or from there, it was like 3 to 5 years. That was your window. You're still in it. You're all in on it. It's too late to back out now, even though Kawhi seems like, while he's an easy player to play with on the floor, it seems like he's a tough player to have in your organization. I think you could, I think that's a polite way to say that what happened last year was uncomfortable for a lot of people in LA.
Well, Dominique, here's the point that I have to disagree with you on. Just because Kawhi Leonard wasn't open to the public about everything that was going on with his situation, that don't mean that the Clippers didn't know what was going on. You don't think Ty Lue knew what was going on with Kawhi the whole time? Everybody knew internally. They just didn't release the information to the public. Kawhi Leonard has been in communication with the Clippers like no other this year. We have seen multiple reports about Kawhi being more vocal than usual. Him and Coach Ty Lue has a tremendous relationship, along with Steve Ballmer. Everything already was known inside the organization. They just did a hell of a job not leaking it out to the media.
Well, maybe that's it. Because these sorts of stories get out. We didn't know whether he was going to play or not in the playoffs. Like, if it was a torn ACL, it was a torn ACL. You're out. So you go back to San Antonio. Maybe that was an aberration where he was kind of secretive about what was going on there. This felt to me a bit like a repeat of that. And if it happened before, then it happened again. We got a trend. And so you're telling me that it's entirely different, that everyone who needed to know what was going on in that organization needed to know because it wasn't getting out, which is a good thing if they can keep it quiet. But it felt to me like nobody really knew.
Well, this is the thing that you have to realize, Dominique, right? When you're in the heat of the battle in the playoff series, you want to keep the opponent guessing. You don't want the opponent to know if Kawhi is coming back. You want to put out reports that saying, hey, Kawhi may play game 6, even though you're knowing that he's not, because you want to play those type of mind games when you're trying to compete for a championship. You never want to show your hand. You never just want to say, we're going to question Kawhi to be out for the series or be out for the playoffs, because you want that team to always be on their toes. You want to strike them so they could at least expect whether or not what your game plan is going to be. So that was a great strategic plan by the Clippers front office and Ty Lue, in my opinion.
All right, fellas, let's move on. Since we're on the topic of keeping players around, the Sixers are still trying to figure out what exactly they're going to do with Ben Simmons. They are still shopping the young star around. No requests have been made. They are expected to continue talking through the free agency period. But Brian Windhorst has a bit of insight into the situation in Philly. Take a listen.
On one hand, they're absolutely having trade talks involving him. You know, he is not untouchable in any regard. On the other, the packages that they are asking for him are being deemed so preposterous by the teams in talking with them that they feel like they're not really seriously wanting to trade him.
All right, Perk, I'm going to start with you on this one. We saw Ben Simmons in the playoffs. Do you think that the Sixers are asking too much for Ben Simmons?
Well, here's the thing. We do have to realize, okay, Ben's had playoff run, but he did finish second in the Defensive Player of the Year voting. He is a guy that has shown us time and time again that he's capable of going out there and giving you 20.7 rebounds and 7 assists when he's at his best. He lost his confidence. But no, the Sixers are not asking for too much because for the simple fact, Ben Simmons have yet to reach his prime. And in the right situation, they know if he goes to another team, we could see the Ben Simmons of old. Like Dominique said, we can't be prisoners of the moment. Right. And I'm here to tell you right now, if the Sixers don't get back what they want for Ben Simmons, they probably won't trade him. I'm telling you, if they don't get back a package or a player that they think that compensates, or a player that's at an MVP type level or all NBA type player for Ben Simmons, along with some picks, then they're probably going to keep Ben Simmons. So let's let the world know this today too, that they're not just going to give Ben Simmons away, and that if they don't get a package, we could possibly see Ben Simmons in the Philadelphia 76ers jersey of the start of next season.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with everything you said, except for the point, I think they're asking for too much. I think that what they're asking for is probably fair for what Ben Simmons' true value is. But that's not what the market bears for him at this moment. And your point about him coming back, I don't think it's fair. He can't come back at this point. Joel Embiid essentially threw him under the bus in a post-game press conference. He is openly his agent at least, has openly suggested that he is okay with the trade. Doc Rivers seems like he wants to move on from him. Daryl Morey is out here openly shopping trades. Like, it's going to be real hard to bring any player, any star player back into a locker room in that situation. Then we put on top of it, it's a player like Ben Simmons. And I'm not going to pretend like I know his mental makeup, but we saw him in the playoffs. And what we cannot say is that in the face of some of these particular challenges, did he stand up and push through and ignore the outside noise? Like, he kind of crumbled in that moment. Like, we kind of all saw it. And that doesn't mean that that's who he is forever, but it's hard for me to imagine that just a season later, we're going to put him in a worse situation. A situation with more scrutiny, a situation where it's clear that no one in the locker room really wants you there and you don't want to be there. And somehow he's going to make his value go up. So I'm with you. He can go back to the other Ben Simmons, or he can potentially even become a better Ben Simmons elsewhere. And he is worth so many draft picks and star players. You're right about all that. But that's not what the market is bearing for him right now, because right now his stock is much lower than that. It's not a whole lot lower, because I think GMs around the league and teams around the league are smart enough to see what you and I see, that if you build around him, because right now this team is built around Joel Embiid, and he's not someone who has found a way to fit in yet. If you do that, yes, he can be great. But right now, that's not what people are paying. And if you had the true opportunity, like if you were right, the alternative here is you can keep him. If that was a legitimate alternative, then maybe I'm fine with Daryl Morey, like arguing or negotiating from such a high point. But there is no legitimate alternative, because you cannot bring him back into the locker room. He's not going to play well in that situation, which means then his value just goes down. They need to train him before camp opens up. So if the price has to go down to do that, then they have to do that, because there is no good alternative that results from bringing Ben Simmons back into this situation.
Well, Dominique, listen, man, I'm trying to teach you something this morning, and I'm trying to show you the light, but you're just being stubborn and stuck in your ways like old people do, and I get it, right? But look, the Philadelphia 76ers were one game away from being in the Eastern Conference Finals, okay? Ben Simmons had the worst game probably of his career. His confidence was shot. But I'm telling you something, and I'm just trying to educate you that if Daryl Morey and the Philadelphia 76ers, and I'm going to repeat this to you, if they don't get something that they feel like that they want back in return for Ben Simmons, then they are open to keeping him. I'm telling you this. Okay. I'm not guessing. I'm not imagining. I'm telling you this, okay?
Okay. They can be wrong, too. Like, smart people can be wrong, too. That would be a mistake. This is not a video game. These are real people with real emotions that actually matter. And we can pretend like it was just one bad game in one series. But we can also accept that the man caught the ball by the basket and didn't want to dunk. We can accept that the man didn't want to go through the free throw line throughout the course of that series. We can also accept that it's really hard. And maybe you are tougher than me and all that stuff. But I personally would have a hard time showing up to work with everybody in my workplace don't like me and they don't want me there. And I don't want to be there. That's asking a lot for Ben Simmons.
Dominique, nobody ever came out and said that they don't like Ben Simmons, okay? And then second of all,
that's fair.
This is a business. You are getting paid. This is a business, and you're getting paid a lot of money to do your job. You just talked to me about mental toughness. You got to have a mental toughness. Show up to work. You know how many times players done been in trade talks or some things to that nature, and the trade didn't happen, and they had to come back and show up to work and do their job? It's part of the business.
Okay, I don't disagree with any of that, but you're assuming like no matter how much money you have, that does not compensate for the fact that you may not be happy in a situation. I'm with you. The expectation is that you show up to work. There's not enough money. There's not enough professionalism that will make you get over that. Mental toughness, yeah, that might make you pull through something like that. But again, did you just watch the playoffs?
Yeah.
Like, on the list of things that Ben Simmons has that are great, mental toughness doesn't feel like it's at the top.
And all football players want to talk about how soft basketball players are.
All right, well, here's the thing. It would be super awkward if Ben Simmons does end up back in Philly. I will agree with you on that, Nick. All right, there's plenty more where that came from. We're gonna ask Perk, point blank period, who he thinks is the face of the NBA, and his answer may absolutely shock you because it absolutely shocked me. Stay tuned. First take.
Carry on. Tell Stephen A. and Max.
Let me tell you this. World champion, Tom Brady, Tampa, great atmosphere. What a better opportunity to step up there and be David against Goliath.
Oh, my goodness. I love that. Jeff Saturday joins us for this conversation. Jeff, I'm going to start with you here. David, Goliath. Is Jerry Jones kind of lowering expectations for his team?
Heck no, he ain't lowering it, man. Listen, Dominique and I both negotiated with Jerry. This is Jerry being Jerry. He's just trying to get everybody calmed down, right? He's trying to make his team feel good. He's easing it. He's like, man, let me take care of it. I'm going to go out here. I'm going to sell this up. It's a win-win. If they go out and play bad, he was like, I told you, Tom Brady champions. If they go out and upset Tampa Bay, all of a sudden it's, hey, league, be on alert, baby. We're here. We're back. We're in action. Dak's the man. Dak is back. He's just playing it. Listen, he is as good a salesman as anybody I've ever been around. So, listen, Tampa Bay is not going to overlook them. BA is not going to overlook them. They're going to understand this is what Jerry does. Jerry's trying to get his fan base. He's trying to get everybody to kind of go, hey, calm down. We know it's not going to be pretty. And then if something turns out a little bit better than it should, he'll sell that too. It's just Jerry being Jerry, just talking it up, man. That's Dallas at its finest.
He is a performer and an entertainer, but most of all, he is a natural marketer. That's part of the reason why the Cowboys are like America's team. And as much as we want to argue against it, we know they haven't won in forever. They are the team, and we know this being in TV. They're the team that people show up to talk about, to hate on, to cheer for, to cheer against. So Jerry Jones has continued to do that. And part of the reason, a big part of the reason is Jerry Jones has things to say, interesting things to say that get him on shows like this. And I think, he's performing in that moment. He's trying to lower expectations for his team. He's trying to potentially lull Tampa Bay into some false sense of security. But Tom Brady is on the other side trying not to let that happen. Didn't he go off? Him and BA, Bruce Arians, the coach, went off on his team for not finishing practice quite well enough. So they know what's happening, just like we know what's happening. They think that Jerry Jones is hoping for some sort of Super Bowl hangover, hoping for some complacency for Tampa Bay, and he is going to feed that until the opening kickoff. And then he can't feed it no more, and Tom Brady and those Bucks are going to come out there and run Dallas right out the stadium. I love Dak Prescott. Everybody knows how much I love Dak Prescott. He is very good. He may play well, but they do not stand a chance in this game. I'm sorry. Tom Brady has been through this Super Bowl thing once or twice. I think he knows how to keep his guys focused and tuned up for the first game. So, yeah, Jerry's lowering expectations, but it ain't going to work, at least not on week one.
Yeah, listen, this is my favorite part, Nick, is this guy, I mean, Jerry has been 8-8 for like 20 years, and everybody still tunes in. I mean, I can show you on my Twitter, but I don't even respond. But if you say anything negative about the Cowboys, you're all kinds of lit up. It'll be like 3 days later, and people still responding for some comment you said about the Cowboys. He knows how to sell. You and I both know it, man. It's just a thing of beauty.
I want to ask you, Jeff, because the Bucs team is the exact same as they were last season. So Mike McCarthy basically has had 8 months to prepare for this opener. How much of a test do you think this will be for this Cowboys team?
Oh, it's a huge test. And listen, now managing, Dak and his shoulder, I think it's real. The emphasis really has to be on McCarthy to kind of protect Dak from himself, right? Look, all the hype is going to be around week one. We got 16 more of it, not 15 like in the past. We got 16 more of these, Dak. So we're coming off the foot injury. We need to get you back, but McCarthy really needs to pump the brakes for Dak Prescott. Understand, hey, man, we need you for the long term. And Dominique just said it. I fully agree. I think they're poised to win the NFC East. That's the only goal they should have. Don't worry about Tampa. Don't worry about any of the rest of it. Let's win our division, play well, beat the Washington football team, the Giants, the Eagles, take care of our business, get a home playoff game. That should be the goal and the focus of the Dallas Cowboys. Let all the rest of it come to you. Don't worry about all the hype, because we know the Cowboys, it's a hype machine. It doesn't matter. But McCarthy's job is to balance Dak Prescott so he can get back. Don't worry about the shoulder. Don't worry about the foot. Let's get back to playing decent football, win our division, let the rest of it handle it.
The most important thing is figure out how to stop somebody. That's what y'all got to do. Y'all, they can play, they can score points. Dak Prescott is going to be healthy. Offensive line is a little bit healthier. They got arguably the best receiving core in the league. Zeke got abs again, so maybe he's going to be a little bit more productive. Let's not worry about Kellen Moore in that offense. They're going to figure it out. You need to figure out who you can rely on that defensive side of the ball. Whatever position group you can put the pressure on, because that's how you build really good, consistent defense, is that you can count on your D-line. If you can count on your D-line, then you can do other things to compensate elsewhere. If it's your linebackers, which I think it has to be for the Cowboys, it has to be their linebackers. They're going to have to find a way to put their linebackers in tough situations, honestly, to take pressure off of the D-line and to take pressure off of the secondary. Because the only way that you can play consistent, good defense in this league is if you have a few guys in a position group that you can trust. They need to find out who that group is in Dallas and then reconstruct their entire defense around putting them in positions where they can take the load and potentially take pressure off of the rest of the group.
Yeah, and Dominique, let me say this too. When you think about Dan Quinn, the new defensive coordinator for this Dallas Cowboy team, so much of when you watch the film from last year, man, how many effort plays did we make fun of? Like, nobody on the Cowboy defense chasing it down, nobody hustling, nobody playing hard, whether it was whatever it was, Mike McCarthy, somebody has to take responsibility. The one thing about Dan Quinn I will say is he is a driver, and everywhere he's been, he will have guys hustle and play. I think that elevates the Cowboys defense. I think if they get a medium performance out of the defense, that is a huge win, and I think they go to the playoffs. They got to be a top 15, top 18 defense. I think they go to the playoffs. They've been the bottom, 28 last year. They got to just move up. I think Dan Quinn can do that. I think that's the excitement in Dallas.
Well, we'll see how much Dan Quinn has been able to turn that defense around. Thanks so much, Jeff. When we return, we're talking a little AFC North. Is this the year the Browns take the division, or might Lamar Jackson and the Ravens have something to say about that?